open up?
Oh, yeah, I'll open up. Welcome back to another episode of Unscripted Exchanges. What up, Hayden? What up?
Dude, I almost forget how to do this. It's been a couple of weeks. I'm a little rusty, but it's
I
good
get
to be
so
back.
nervous in front of the camera, too.
You get those flutters in your heart or your stomach?
Honestly, I had those this morning because I drank too much coffee.
Oh,
Because I
that will
woke up,
definitely do it.
I did eat a lot last night for dinner, and I went to bed early. And so I was like empty stomach, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna have like I have like a 16-ounce coffee cup, like a huge coffee cup. So I like topped that off, and I was drinking it. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, what? So sometimes caffeine just hits you differently.
Yeah, I think you're hitting on something I was going to ask. So if you don't have any food in your stomach, it's probably going to make a more serious impact in terms of what it's going to do to you. Which that didn't make sense how I described that. I've been fascinated because I started drinking what like some energy drinks over the past 2 or 3 years here and there,
Yeah,
which aren't probably the greatest, but at least, and who knows, I'm taking it at face value. It tells you how much caffeine's in quote unquote a drink. How do you know how much caffeine you're putting into your cup of coffee? You don't, do you?
no, dude, I think they just have like an average, which is like it probably varies so much. Like they're like, oh, like 1 12-ounce cup of coffee is like 80 milligrams, but it's just like, what if it's like the Colombian stuff, or what if it's like you know what I mean? It's like, dude, does the Colombian stuff like have some cocaine in it? Like I don't know. I mean, sometimes I have that stuff, and I'm like, I'm a little over the edge. I think I influenced you to have some energy drinks. I feel good about that. I feel like
Ah,
when we first got together, just let me have this. When we first started podcasting, you were not drinking caffeine.
well, it's been our sponsors that have influenced me.
That's true. Monster, yeah. I know we're not supposed to drop, but Monster, I know they came in pretty hot, pretty aggressive. But I think they said we had to drink what 4 or 5 a day, 4 or 5.
4 or 5 cases a day. We're being a case study to see if we can survive without having a heart attack.
We're pissing Monster. It's like it's a scientific study to see how much the heart can take.
Yeah, you did that IV one day, right? Where they just put straight Monster into your bloodstream.
Actually, I take it the other route. We're probably not supposed to talk about that on air, but you know how they do bongs like beer bongs. Like
I know where you're going with that. Absolutely.
my wife helped me.
But no, on a more serious note, still coffee, because I think that is a game changer for a lot of people. And look at you, you're wired with your eyes there.
Oh, do you like
um,
that?
do you feel like coffee is, and this is an opinion of one being yourself, but do you feel like coffee is necessary for you to operate at your highest level, or do you feel like you need it on days where you're just a little bit tired and you need a pick me up?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
You were not expecting that, probably. I don't. I think coffee's more of like I enjoy drinking coffee.
Mm.
I enjoy having an energy drink. Like I enjoy that like energy, but honestly, like I could go work out in the morning and not need a sip of caffeine. It's weird. I have my days, but like there's a lot of days when I'm really tired where caffeine has a completely negative effect on me. Like
So
on Monday.
will
What?
you go days without coffee?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it just depends on how I'm feeling, how I slept. If I really rested well
Hmm.
and I woke up naturally, like if I wake up naturally, typically I don't feel the need for caffeine. I feel like sometimes I'll have a coffee or a Red Bull. I'll go get a sugar-free Red Bull because I don't like the sugar ones. They're just like too much for me. I'll get a sugar-free Red Bull or something or a Celsius, and I'll get like a quarter of the way through it and I'll be like, I don't want this. Like
Yeah.
this is not like I'm already awake. Why am I drinking this? It's
Right.
just making me jittery. But like on Monday, so I went to Philly Monday, and I had to get up at like 5 to get up to Dayton Airport because that's what I was flying out of.
Yep.
And I bought one of those C4 energy drinks, like this, like it's like it's not the C4 like workout. It's like this new. Have you seen those? The new C4. It's like a Celsius basically. It's like green tea and all this stuff.
Hmm.
So I was like, oh, I'll try it. Um, it's got the same caffeine content as like a Monster or a Celsius or an Alani. And
Okay.
I got like a quarter of the way through it, and I was like, nah, like I don't need this. I'm already awake. and I'm like, this is starting to make me feel kind of iffy.
Yep.
So like I would say like typically if I when I started lately when I started to feel really like tired and kind of dragging, this is something I learned from you actually. I try to hydrate before I drink any caffeine. Like I'll
Well,
grab
because
like a
caffeine will make you actually more dehydrated, which a lot of people don't know. Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
and
Sorry.
it's like typically it's like okay, I didn't have enough electrolytes or like my salt content's off or like I'm not absorbing water. And I'm like, okay, versus rather than like getting caffeine just because I'm feeling a little lethargic, let me try to hydrate myself. And that seems to help a lot. So no, the answer to the question is, I used to be really dependent on it, but I think too though. So I used to take ADD meds like years ago, and I stopped taking them about I think 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, and it took me probably a year and a half to really because that's a stimulant. So it probably took me a year and a half at least for my body to get used to not having that stimulant. And then I was able to start like, okay, now my body's re-regulating my energy levels, right? Um, so it's just interesting. Like, dude, the body is weak. The human bodies, and everybody's different. I mean, I would say the
Exactly.
same
You gotta
question to you. Like, do you need caffeine in the morning?
no. I've gotten into a habit here and there where I feel like I want it and I drink it, consume it every now and then, but no, because I don't want to get to a point where it's like, oh, I need caffeine to operate. Like, I don't want to have any substance for that matter that I need to be dependent on. I mean, in an ideal world, there's obviously situations where sometimes you need to become quote unquote dependent and take something for whatever your health reason is. But I just don't want to get to a place where, like, oh, I didn't have my coffee today or my caffeine. So I'm not able to operate. I definitely see how some people can get addicted to it. But like you were just mentioning, it just depends on who you are and like how your body reacts to caffeine and also just the amount of caffeine. Like when I started drinking energy drinks, I was drinking like the Rain energy drinks, which
Mhm.
I really enjoyed. But then after, a couple of weeks, more so months, I realized how much caffeine was in there. And I'm like, holy crap, that seems like a lot. And I compared it to, again, the average amount of caffeine in a coffee cup. And it's like 3.5 times more. And I was like consuming that within like minutes. So, like, that's where like my brain felt like it was on fire. My whole body was just like, not knowing exactly what to do. And for the most part, I'm a pretty calm person, but inside, like the panic button was going off. And I'm like, I
Right.
need to, calm down a little bit and not consume that. And yeah, I just think I know there's labels on energy drink cans, but like there just needs to be broader education or awareness on, how much caffeine is in like one serving size or one of those cans. And some of those cans only have like 100 milligrams. Another can might have 200, and then the most that I've seen has been 300. And to start out, when I was drinking these energy drinks, I was going for the one that I liked based on flavor, but not really realizing how much caffeine it had. So I started to educate myself a little bit more, and when I do drink the energy drinks, I'm finding these monster ones that are zero sugar, which again doesn't really make it any better. I mean, a little bit on paper, but they're still probably not that healthy. But it only has like 100 milligrams of caffeine. So that's a lot better for my system versus just dumping 3.5, 4 cups of coffee down.
Dude, you remember the Four Locos? They still do those things. Those
I thought
things
those got banned. I thought those
I
got
think
banned.
I'm pretty sure they're back. Dude, we used
What?
to like think about how crazy we were back in the day. I used to like shotgun those fucking things. Like we go to a concert, they had like 300 milligrams of energy caffeine in them, and then
A
like
stimulant and a depressant at the same time, right?
16% alcohol content. And you're like, let's shotgun them, dude. Let's, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we called it. I think we used to call it the concert drink. Right? Let's do a Four Loco before. Yeah, just tear your intestines up. That's interesting. So I was actually, what did I get the other day? I think it was the sugar free Monster, and I was trying to find on it where it said how much caffeine was in it because I started drinking it and I was like halfway through it, and I was like, what is in this thing? And I
I'm
was like,
gonna I'm
I think it's
gonna
like 200.
yeah, I was gonna say I'm gonna guess it would be anywhere from like 120 to 200 depending on the size that you got. But yeah, it is very deceiving how they put that, how many milligrams of caffeine are in this, and you have to look hard on those cans, but it has to be listed.
Oh, it does. It's just like I was like looking around for it. I'm like, I can't. I was like, it doesn't. Some of them do say it. Did you know those 5-hour extra shrinks have like 300 milligrams and they're like this big?
It's crazy.
Dude, it's like injecting jet fuel into your body, dude. Like you take a 5-hour. I did one of those like a few weeks ago before I worked out, and I was like, dude, I was like, holy shit! And I looked at it, and it said 300 milligrams of caffeine, and it's literally a sip. It's a sip.
Yep. A shot.
Like that's nuts.
Yeah.
So I digress. I wonder how many athletes. Here's a good question. I wonder how many athletes, like professional athletes, actually drink like large amounts of caffeine.
Ooh, that's a good question. I wonder if we could look that up.
Like, think about that. Like how many? Because like these guys are obviously pushing themselves to the limits. But I feel like the group, like I don't know. I feel like it's got to be. I have no idea, to be honest. I've always wondered that. Like, what's their go-to for energy? It's probably just like healthy eating. It's funny because it's like this is kind of, but just thinking about the Super Bowl coming up, is all these athletes, these professional athletes, like, yeah, they have God-given talent, but they really, dude, their full-time job, they treat their bodies and their preparation and their like work ethic is so extreme. I mean, to get to that level, it's nuts. I saw like some videos they were doing during the season, the NFL season, of they were like interviewing, they were like a locker room interviews, like, what do you have for breakfast? And these dudes are like, this was like the Tennessee Titans. Every single one was like avocado and toast, 3 eggs, oatmeal, Greek yogurt, 6 eggs. Like every single person, not one person was like, I skipped breakfast.
Yeah.
And they were like obviously these are athletes, right, that are like pushing their bodies to the max. So they need a lot more calories and a lot more protein than the average person. But just hearing them, like, it's like kind of just this light bulb clicked. I'm like, these guys are practicing what they preach. The only way they can perform at that level is by literally treating their body and being disciplined. Like those guys, men and women that are professional athletes, are the most disciplined people on this planet. I mean, they're warriors in their field.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you brought that up because I would even, kind of somewhat flip the narrative or the mindset when you're talking about how these athletes treat their bodies really well. Like, why don't we as society kind of push that too? Because it doesn't matter if you're an athlete or, you're a businessman or businesswoman, whatever your career path is, you want to be taking care of your body physically, mentally, spiritually. And we've talked about this, but, we'll never stop talking about it. If you want to be the best version of yourself and operate at the highest levels, you got to take care of who you are. And if you aren't, everything else is going to start to go to shit. So it's just amazing how society like thinks that, only athletes need to eat well, train well, do X, Y, and Z. It's like we all should be kind of operating that way. And sure, there's definitely, situations where these athletes are taking it to the extreme and that's why they're the 1%, but there's still a lot of good and benefit in eating healthy, sleeping, lifting, working out, whatever it might be in that area. It's like we all need to do that as a society.
Dude, think about this. Think about the okay, so I think about I'm just gonna paint this picture, right? People like athletes, right? Especially in high school, and people go, well, what a meathead, right? Oh, they're just an athlete. You know how much cognitive ability you need to be a professional athlete? Like how much focus and grit and clarity and like that level of intelligence and brain power to be able to perform like that. Like think about the NBA. They have 180 games. 180 or something like that, right? It was 180 or is it 80? It's something like that.
I think it's 80.
MLB is 180. MLB is 180.
I think MLB is 160.
Okay, whatever, Hayden. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just correct.
My point is, you're right. My point is, that those men and women that are professional athletes, like they're not just testing their bodies and treating their bodies well because it's all about their physical, but they have to have sharp minds, clear heads, all this stuff. So to your point, it's like, why don't we all do that, right? Because not all of us are athletes, but if we're in a job or in a career or a teacher or a student or a parent, like the more mental clarity and ability to focus and sleep well and all that stuff is going to help us. I just think that's super, super good point.
Absolutely. And I would even just correct one of the statements that you made. And nothing's wrong with it. It's just, again, it goes back to what we're highlighting. I'm not an athlete. So why should I do this? It's like all of us have the capacity or ability, and maybe I shouldn't say all, but you get what I'm saying. Most people have the capacity to be an athlete. It's just your mindset and the behaviors that you're willing to take on and make habits over long periods of time. Like you can still go to the gym, lift some weights, go for a walk, go for a jog, eat healthy, get a lot of rest, good sleep. Like those are, again, choices that you get to make. It doesn't matter if you're quote unquote a high paid athlete on a professional team. You can still be, a mom, a dad, a brother, a sister that's going out and doing those things and taking care of yourself, and it's going to pay dividends. I think it's just crazy that, a lot of people are like, well, I'm just not an athlete, so I don't need to worry about that. It's like, all right, you're going to be picking your battles here, and you're going to be fighting things later on down the line in your life when it comes to your health more times than not.
Well, like to your point, and maybe that was a good correction. We can all be athletes in our own way. I mean, I would consider myself an athlete. I meant just from a professional standpoint. Like we can all take tips from the people and like I don't know. I just have a really big appreciation for that. And okay, kind of flipping gears here.
Hold on, let me jump back in real quick.
Yeah.
Because me, I love this, area or this topic. I think that being quote unquote an athlete, whatever you define that as, to stick to that word, or being health conscious, actually becomes a competitive advantage, and you're able to do a hell of a lot more because you've got sustained levels of energy. You're bringing your best self to work or in your home. And like the advice that I would give to people is like, double down on taking care of your health, and that's going to then parlay itself into other areas of your life that you want when it comes to, let's say, financial wellness or success. Like you need to start with the number one foundation, and that is your health, and then it's going to just pay so many dividends with everything else in your life, and it truly becomes a competitive advantage. Like you and I have talked about this in the past as well. Like we both don't drink alcohol. We both live pretty active and healthy lifestyles. And that just allows us to probably take on a lot more than the average person. And we're here to toot our horn, but also just showcase that other people can do this too. It's just, you have to be willing to take on those habits and incorporate them into your everyday lifestyle.
Dude, okay, that's a good point, and I want to just make this comment about drinking. We love to talk about this, but I saw this reel. James Corden, James Corden.
Is
He's
that the stand-up guy over
he
the
does
late?
like he's got the late show. He's got
Yeah,
he's like British. So
yeah,
he was doing an interview with Raj. I can't remember his name, but he was doing a podcast interview,
sure.
and they were talking about drinking, and he said, he's like, I love going out and having that like 3 to 6 drinks, that buzz, that feeling of like getting loose. He goes, but as you get older, and as I've gotten older, I start looking at everything I'm drinking tonight and doing tonight, I'm borrowing time from tomorrow. Meaning, if I'm hit 4 drinks and I stay up a couple extra hours out partying, then I'm taking that time for tomorrow. So if I stay out late tonight, I'm borrowing that time from noon. If I stay out later or I drink more, I'm borrowing time from tomorrow. So he's like, I look at it now when I go out and I start drinking, is that I'm not just getting time, I'm not getting more time. I'm just borrowing. I'm stealing time from my next day because I'm going to feel like shit. And I was like, "Oh, that's like kind of interesting. That's kind of a hot take." Like if you think about it, that we have talked about that. You take the hangovers out. That's 50. What is it? 52 weeks in a year. If you just don't drink, let's say you're just one person that drinks just Saturday nights. Let's just use that. You only got and drink Saturday night. You would still get 52 days of productivity back a year. If you go out and party hard,
And maybe more. That's probably the bare minimum, depending on how much alcohol you consume.
How fast you recover. You might that hangover might flow into Monday, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you're missing like double that, 104 days of productivity a year.
Third of a year of 1 year gone. Yeah.
Oh, I've seen that, dude. I've seen the whole thing. I've seen all of the pros of at least toning it back. My suggestion to anybody listening to this is just take a look at how much you drink and like look at it and say, hey, am I regulating this in a healthy way? And if I'm not, do I either need to cut back or give it up?
Yeah, well said. I mean, hell, look at the big time CEOs these days. They finally figured out that maybe not, they're immortal. Did I get that right? They're gonna die someday.
Yeah, mortal.
Thank you. And they're doubling down on their health. Like you see Bezos and you see Zuckerberg. Like these guys are freaking getting jacked. I don't know if you've seen some of the stuff over the past.
Dude.
Yeah, but these guys were dweebs and didn't take care of their health at all. So why are they, starting to invest in their health? It's because like that is the
health is wealth.
Exactly. And if you can, get behind that early on and stay on that journey, it's just going to, again, pay dividends, and you're going to set yourself up with so much more success long term. And you're going to be able to have hopefully a longer lifestyle and longevity for success, because everything is powered by your energy and how well you're taking care of your physical and mental health.
Okay, hot take for you, Hayden. Could you beat Zuckerberg in a cage match?
Let's say yes. It would be silly to say no.
Dude, have you seen that dude's training though? Well, he did hurt his knee, I think. So.
He has way more training. I have no training. So people would be like, yeah, you're an idiot. But I'm going to say, just with some level of humble confidence, I'm going to say yes.
Yeah. I think you could take him.
Yeah. Give me a month of training. Give me a month of training, and then for sure.
Well, I think you've already got the foundation though. So I
think I'm in better physical condition than he is. Not saying that he hasn't put in the work, because he looks a heck of a lot different now. I think he's almost like 40. If we're in our 30s here,
I think he's like 38 or 39. He's close.
He's close, yeah. But he looks a heck of a lot different now than he did when he was 2021, however old he was starting Facebook.
That's crazy.
So I think the takeaway that we're trying to say is you got to get jacked and get smart, and you'll be unstoppable.
Yeah,
you can't alienate.
Yes.
That's how you get your competitive advantage.
I'm going to shift gears on us now, because we have something coming up this weekend. We've been talking about professional athletes, and we're gonna get into, as we're wrapping this up, Super Bowl, baby. Woo-hoo. First of all, I fucking hate that it's the Kansas City Chiefs again. And I like Patrick Mahomes, okay? But it's, again, 5 years. Like, what is this? 4 out of 5 years in the past 5 years that it's the Chiefs again? Like, come on.
Are the Chiefs the new Patriots?
Maybe it's the red. I think they are. They have to be.
I think so.
They have to be. They're always there.
Yep. I think it's actually good in terms of business for the NFL when it comes to the same team kind of forming a dynasty. I know a lot of people would tell you otherwise, but I'm pretty sure it was always benefiting the NFL, I should say, at large, and a lot of the economy when they were continuing to go back to the Super Bowl, what felt like year after year after year. I think the Chiefs, though, if they win, would be the first team since the Patriots to win back-to-back, which was in the early 2000s. It's been over 20 years.
That'd be a dynasty then, wouldn't they?
In my mind, yeah. And like you said, they've been 4 out of the last 5 years or whatnot. I mean, this would be, I think, Mahomes' third Super Bowl, and he's only been in the league for like 7 years.
6 years.
Wow.
Dude, 6 years. He's been to the AFC Championship all 6 years.
That's
That's
impressive.
nuts.
That's
That's
impressive.
nuts. Yeah, that's just cool. But I think the overall one of the bigger headlines, which is I want to get your take on this. So you got the Super Bowl is the Super Bowl. It's just huge. It's going on in Vegas. Which, by the way, what have you seen that sphere? The sphere they built in Vegas is nuts. Absolutely nuts. It is so. I haven't seen it in person, but like the videos.
Some guy scaled it the other week and he got arrested. He was on top of it. He free climbed it. Yeah.
How did he even do that?
I don't quite know how he made it all the way up with the angle, but I'll send you the video.
That. Yeah. Well, think about this though. Okay, so here's the question I'm asking: is do you think Taylor Swift is good for the Super Bowl and good for the NFL?
Absolutely.
That's been a big, highly debated thing. So let's just talk about it.
Right? If everyone's talking about it, we need to. I would say yes, from a financial or monetary value. Like she's definitely bringing in additional eyes to the product at large, being the NFL. Like think of how many people were Taylor Swift fans and, they caught wind that Taylor Swift's got a boyfriend that plays in the NFL. So all these different viewers are tuning in, whether it's, one additional game a year or whatever it might be, or for the Super Bowl, like they're just driving more eyeballs to their product, which is strategy that we talk about too when we talk our media company and where we want to go. Like at the highest level, you want eyes on your product. And how do you do that? No better way to do that than having Taylor Swift like kind of represent or be part of your brand. So I think absolutely
the biggest star in the world is Taylor Swift. I mean, there's no doubt. There's no question. The most iconic. I mean, she cleaned up at the Grammys. I would agree with you. I think I just think it's interesting that it's even a debate because it's like, you heard this stuff. It's like, is she part of the Pentagon? Is she in the CIA? Right? Is she like? It's just like, dude, she's just a normal human being that happens to be like unbelievable, a generational, maybe like ever talent for how she's able to like transcend genres, right? I think that's cool. But I think what's really neat is, I think to your point, it is cool that she's brought, I mean, even Ava's like never had a lot of interest in the NFL at all. Like she's like just no interest. She knows daddy played football. Cool. You don't play football anymore, dad. Like I don't give a shit. And she wants to watch the Kansas City games, which I hate because I'm just like, I don't want to watch them. But like, and I don't hate. I just want to be very clear. I don't hate Kansas City. I don't hate anything. I don't dislike Kansas City. It's tough because I want Burrow to be on top of I want the Bengals to be on top of that, and it's tough for me as a Bengals fan to know that they have to go through Kansas City for the next decade while Patrick Mahomes is there, right? Well, and Andy Reid, like that's tough.
I think as long as Burrow's healthy and we've got, a solid offensive line and still a few good offensive weapons to support Joe, I think there's always a good chance that it is Burrow versus Mahomes.
It's just it's a big rivalry. And it's like, dude, if you're not going against somebody that's inconsistent. So I think that's part of like the frustration with it. But I would agree. I think Taylor Swift has like done a phenomenal job. It makes me think about some of these other sports. This is kind of probably an interesting take. Some of these other, like the WNBA or, swimming or women's gymnastics, stuff like that, that I'm like, okay, how could they get more eyes on them, right? And it's like, because Taylor, like the NFL was already popular, right? So Taylor Swift is like bringing more popularity to one of the most popular sports in the world. One of the most
the NFL wants to go quote unquote global too.
Right.
And what better way to do that? Because she's had tours where she's gone global. People know her throughout the entire universe here or world. Because the NFL is playing its first game next season in like Brazil now too.
I don't know who the Eagles are playing, but they're playing there. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Isn't
I
that
think this has
nuts?
been part of Roger Goodell's plan ever since the start of the season. I don't think Taylor Swift and Kelsey are really dating. They're just acting.
You think
It's my
it's fake?
conspiracy theory. And the Chiefs are going to win. The Chiefs are going to win. That's a landslide. But I shouldn't say by a landslide, but I would, put some money down on the money line if I were a betting man, which maybe I am, maybe I'm not, and pick the Chiefs.
Dude, let's put some money down on Purdy, baby. Purdy's
Yeah.
looking purdy. Purdy's looking purdy. I mean, I think it'll be a good game. I think it's good for the sport. I just like I said, I think it's just something to talk about. It is like interesting to talk about. Like, dude, people were like getting pissed that they're panning to Taylor Swift in the box all the time. It's like, dude, people are tuning in to see her. Yeah, you're gonna pan to her. Like,
Yep.
the Kansas City games have been the most viewed games in the last 20 or 30 years in any NFL game. I think they're
Yep.
getting almost as much viewership as they expect in the Super Bowl at some of these games because Taylor Swift's in the box with Mama Kelsey and Jason Kelsey, right? So, dude, we need to get some star power like that on Unscripted. You saw how big their New Heights podcast. I mean, it was already a good podcast, but man, dude, those guys are like everywhere now.
We're gonna land the Kelsey brothers on the show here
I
soon.
really do. I love them. I love both the Kelseys. They're so funny.
They've got a good brand that they've put together. They're a hoot. Good products around them too.
What else do we want to touch on today, Hayden? What else is going through your pretty little mind?
Not too much other than just plugging away and enjoying life. Right.
All right, make your pick.
My pick for the Super Bowl. I already gave you my pick. I said the Chiefs.
Oh, you did do that, didn't you?
Yeah, pound the money line on that, dude. Pound the money line.
49ers. 49ers.
Nope,
49ers,
it's not going to happen.
49ers, 49ers, 49ers. Yes.
The 49ers should have lost big. I don't know what the Detroit Lions did in the last game, but Detroit was smoking them, and they fell apart because of the decisions their coach made. But hey, we're not a sports podcast. I don't think the 49ers are the better team. I truly think the Chiefs are going to win. And I've got some conspiracy thoughts, so I think
there it
Chiefs
is,
win.
folks. Sports podcaster Hayden calls it bet the money line.
If you want to win some money, bet on the Chiefs.
All right, close us out.
All righty. Thanks, y'all, for tuning in to another episode of Unscripted Exchanges. We have the best content around. We have the most exciting guests that we bring onto the show, thanks to yours truly, Cole Hazenfield, being our head of brand partnerships. Reach out to him if you would like to be a guest on our show. We have a queue of folks that want to be joining us here in the new year. We've got a lot of awesome stuff planned, and we'll continue to grow and get better. Continue to stick around with us. We appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to you on the next one. Peace.